Inauguration of Governor Bill Lee, Tennessee's 50th governor.
Good morning and welcome, and that is correct. Bill Lee is about to become the 50th governor of Tennessee. I'm Vicki Yates.
And I'm Rory Johnston. We are live here right outside the War Memorial Auditorium, where inside this year, inside. Vicki, we are going to see the inauguration ceremonies begin in just a few minutes. We are told this is one of the first times in many, many years that the inauguration has been moved indoors because of the rainy, wet, and windy forecast. But they have done that just a few days ago. Just behind us, you see lots of people coming in last minute. Some of the general public, Vicki, trying to find seats to get inside, if there are any available seats, because there are a lot of dignitaries moving in here, we have seen over the past hour or so. And this is a very carefully planned event right down to the minute, Vicki.
We understand it's standing room only, so I don't know if some of these people are going to get in or not. And you were talking about this being one of the only ones that's going to be inside as far as the governor. The last time an inauguration was held inside was in 1975. Governor Ray Blanton moved the swearing-in ceremony inside because of an ice storm. Yeah, so
it has been quite a while.
It's been a while.
And this is a special event also because we are inaugurating a new governor, the 50th governor, and that will be Bill Lee, who will actually take the oath of office within the next hour or so. But as I said, this is a carefully planned event right down to the minute, starting at 10 o'clock. Right now, at the top of the hour at 11, we have a number of dignitaries, former governors, who are still just across the way in the old Supreme Court chambers at the state capitol, where they are in kind of a holding room taking some photos, and they are going to begin and walk over through one of the tunnels here and take their place up on the stage. We've already seen Senator Lamar Alexander, Senator Marsha Blackburn, many other dignitaries who have taken their seats inside.
It's an exciting day. There's going to be a lot of singing, there's going to be a lot of speeches, there's going to be a lot of everything going on, but everybody has turned out, as bad as the weather is, they don't care, because this is a historic moment for Tennessee.
It's a packed house indeed. And earlier this morning, Governor-elect Bill Lee and his family attended a prayer service, which is pretty traditional, and then they've moved over to the State House, and then they're going to move here to the War Memorial Auditorium for the swearing-in ceremonies, which includes several speakers, including our current governor, Governor Haslam, who has about an hour left after his 8 years, and he will have some farewell remarks.
Now, we understand that our analyst Pat Nolan is there. Pat, can you tell us from your aspect what's going on?
Well, good morning, Vicki and Rory. You're right. I guess I'm getting pretty old. I actually covered Governor Blanton when he was sworn into office in 1975. I remember being in the War Memorial that day, and I remember that ice storm. It is a rare situation. I do remember seeing some pictures that were taken that day of the overflow crowd, people who could not get into the station, could not get into the building at that time. I'm back in the studio, so I'm sorry you guys are out in the rain, but it's going to be a historic day. These first inaugurations are always a big deal. It used to be up until Governor Alexander was put into office, and that has a story in and of itself. But until that time, governors only had one opportunity to be inaugurated because they were term limited after 4 years. Ever since we've had two 8-year terms that governors can serve, they have been able to be reelected. And the second one is usually a little bit more low key than the first one. So I think this one will be a big deal. It's the first time I can remember the prayer service being moved from a location because of the demand for tickets. And I'm not surprised there's a huge crowd up there today. I hope the weather's not as bad as it kind of looks like, but at least it's not as bad as it normally is in January, which sometimes means very, very cold weather, and in some cases spitting snow. I don't remember it being quite this rainy, but I know you guys will do a great job, and be happy to join you here as we go along.
You know, thank you, Pat. And one of the issues that we've had with the weather here has been these marble, the marble slabs here that you're walking on. Very, very slippery.
They are. They're so slick.
And the steps coming up, they've got signs and they have escorts at all of the steps coming up into this area of Legislative Plaza, because we understand a number of people, unfortunately, have taken some bad spills.
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe next time we could think this out, not us, but perhaps War Memorial, and place something down so people don't fall, because I'm sure this is not the first time it's rained here.
That's right. So they are trying their best to accommodate everyone. I guess earlier the weather was pretty bad as far as the rain really coming down hard and the wind. But right now it is raining, but it's not terrible. It's manageable.
It's manageable.
A lot of umbrellas and a lot of raincoats, like us.
You know, I wonder if there's an overflow room for people who couldn't get in. I'm seeing people leaving with their umbrellas and going somewhere. Is there somewhere else they can go?
You know, I'm not sure. A lot of people are crossing the street and going into the Tennessee Tower tunnel underneath to wait. I'm not sure if they have a screen set up there for them.
They do.
Where they can get out of the elements. But at 11:05, which is just about right now, is when they were going to announce to the public if there were any extra seats so that they could come in and watch. And I just heard one gentleman say, there are no more seats. So it looks like it's pretty packed in there.
Okay. Well, anyway, it's going to be a wonderful day. No matter the rain, whatever's going on, it's going to be a wonderful day and a really great day for Tennessee. A lot of people are just kind of getting to know Bill Lee, and we'll tell you a few fun facts about him. Born in Franklin, raised here, and I think most of us know Bill Lee from his trucks. His business.
The Lee Company.
The Lee Company.
Which just last week, we understand that he kind of divested himself finally to move on to start doing public service and put his assets into a blind trust, which is required by the law.
It is.
So this afternoon, after this, of course, tonight, the events will continue with 2 different inaugural balls at the Music City Center tonight.
Are we going to either one of those?
No, I don't believe so.
I don't believe we are either. But we're glad to be here. And our Brandon Marshall is inside. We'll be talking to him later, hearing from him later about exactly what's going on.
And we have a pool camera inside. Public television here in Tennessee is broadcasting this and providing the pool for us. So we will take you inside the room. And some of the shots you're seeing inside as people are getting set is provided by them. So we appreciate their help. But it is an exciting day because this is the 50th governor to be elected, to be inaugurated in Tennessee, and he has an ambitious agenda. I know that our Kyle Horan sat down with Governor-elect Lee. I sat down with Governor Haslam last week to talk about where he would like to see the state go and where he would like to see Governor-elect Lee pick up and carry on. And I know education is going to be a big focus.
I think that's probably one of the #1 focuses for both of them. It has been. So let's see what happens there. And I understand he's also a big fan of charter schools, and that was a bone of contention for a few people, but we'll see how it works out.
Yeah. I'll go back to our political analyst, Pat Nolan. Pat, how many inaugurations is this for you?
Well, I believe the first one I did was in '75, so every one since then I've had something to do with it. So it's been, as Vicki says, gee, it's been a while, and I think that's probably right.
Do you know about the tone of an inaugural address for a governor? I know that they have released at least portions of it to the media already of what Governor-elect Lee or Governor Lee will have to say, but you would imagine that it would be as positive and as uplifting and forward-thinking as possible.
I would think that's usually the case. I do remember Governor Bredesen's first inaugural at the time when he came into office. Quite a bit of problems with the TennCare situation, a lot of fights from both sides. He sort of came in and said, I want to propose a third way to do this. That's one of the things I remember. It's sort of setting the tone for what he's going to do to start with, particularly in his first session of the legislature. And don't forget, the governor is actually inaugurated during a joint session of the legislature, so all the members of the legislature will be there to hear what he has to say. It'll also be, I think, a prelude to a more formal presentation that he'll make later in February when he gives his first State of the State address and presents his first budget. That'll be coming up later next month. That'll be very important to actually start the work of the legislature and the governor, but he'll be setting the tone for that, I'm sure, with some of the things he'll say today.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see what he has to say in the education area. He just appointed his new education commissioner yesterday. Yes, sir.
Pat, it's interesting to note that as a part of this ceremony, it's actually a joint session of the Tennessee General Assembly, right?
Yes, you might say based on the 1870 Constitution, which the state still operates under, that was sort of setting the pecking order, that the legislature swears in the new governor during one of their sessions. We used to inaugurate governors many years ago, back before that Constitution, in months like May and June, where the weather might be a little better to do that outside, but we've done it in January since 1870. And in the 1870 Constitution, you can see that the governor is sworn in during one of those sessions of the legislature. And it's also interesting to note that the legislature also has a unique veto override situation. They can override a governor's veto with just a simple majority, not a 2/3 majority, which is usually the case almost anywhere, whether on the federal level or the state constitution situation across the country.
Pat, how much leeway will the governor or the governor-elect right now have when he does his inaugural address as far as what he wants to talk about, what he wants to address?
I don't know that there are any guidelines set up for him or thing. I'm sure he'll want to talk, probably reinforce some of the themes he gave during his campaign. He'll certainly take time to thank all the people there. This is a day for he and his supporters and others to celebrate, a day for the whole state to celebrate, because we have another peaceful transition of power, which is one of the things that makes this country and this state very, very important and great. So I suspect he'll talk about, he may hint at some things that he wants to get done in his session. I don't know how much detail he'd be ready to go into at this point, but particularly things like he's going to go forward with things on charter schools and on vouchers. We'll find that out today. He's also talked a lot about putting more vocational and technical education into the K through 12 schools. What kind of additional hints will he give about that today? We don't know, but maybe we'll see if we get some hints of that. It'll be interesting to see what he has to say, and interesting to see what Governor Haslam has to say in his sort of farewell address here this morning.
And Pat, you know, he is being sworn in. That is the big draw here,
sure
the swearing in of the new governor, but also he will then swear in his new cabinet, and I know he just finished up naming some key cabinet positions.
That's true. I think he named 6 or 7 of them just this week. You don't have a whole lot of time. You think you get elected in November, you got a lot of time to get everything put together by the middle of January. Well, when you got the holidays in there, that gets to be a little bit difficult, but he did meet his promise of having all his cabinet members sworn in and ready to go on his inauguration day, on his swearing-in day. It's traditional that one of the governor's first acts is to swear in his cabinet, and that'll be done. It used to be done in the governor's office, but now I think it'll be done right up on the stage of the War Memorial as soon as I think he finishes his speech. And by the way, he's sworn in at a sort of an auspicious time of day. His swearing in, if they follow the schedule correctly, will be right at high noon.
That's right.
Right.
And speaking of the cabinet, one of the key people in his cabinet is going to be the head of the Department of Education. Tell us a little bit about his choice, Peggy Swinn, Chief Deputy Commissioner of Education from the Texas Education Agency. This is a key position for him and his agenda, right?
Well, given all the things he's talked about in education that I just mentioned, yeah, it's very, very important. She is considered a rising star of school reform, and that includes things like vouchers and things like charter schools and other areas that give more choice for parents. It'll be interesting to see what he decides to move forward with, to talk specifically about moving that agenda forward this year in this session of the legislature, or perhaps give it a year to take some further advice and time to study and then bring that forward. But yeah, it'll be very interesting to see if he focuses on education or what other topics he decides to bring up to the forefront in his first address, in one of his first acts as governor in his opening speech.
Thanks, Pat. Right now we're going to go to News Channel 5's Kyle Horan, who did speak to Bill Lee about education. Let's listen in.
What will the next 4 years look like? Governor-elect Bill Lee has a lot to think about as he begins to enter his term as governor. One of his key focus areas, he says, will be education and how it will impact Tennesseans. It's just about time for the new administration to get to work. At the state capitol, it's calm 2 days before the governor-elect takes office. Bill Lee is looking for ways to improve the state's education system all the way to the college level.
Absolutely think Tennessee Promise has been good for Tennessee. Their results are very promising.
With tens of thousands of applicants every year, recent high school graduates are taking full advantage of the program. However, the graduation rate, though promising, is below what some expected.
One of my priorities has been actually increasing and putting a greater emphasis on vocational and technical education in our public school systems that actually will lead to stronger post-secondary opportunities there through our colleges of applied technology.
Lee believes that with effort, eventually that program will get where it needs to be. Lee also says he believes that more education options are a benefit to our state, which includes improving public schools as well as charters. And he supports the idea of vouchers parents can use to send their kids to private schools.
I am a believer that when parents have choices, the outcomes for their children are not only improved, but it improves the whole system. Charters are a choice option for parents. I think we need to strengthen the charter system that we have, and we just need to look at choices overall for parents.
Kyle Harant, News Channel 5.
Thanks, Kyle.
Earlier last week, I had a chance to sit down with outgoing Governor Bill Haslam, and he told me, Vicki, that one of his biggest regrets was not being able to get an expansion of Medicaid here in Tennessee.
Of course.
And he talked about people in his own party who rejected it because it was just too closely tied to Obamacare.
Right.
But we talked a little bit about that, and he talked about his hope that the new administration would be able to find some way to cover the 300 or 200,000 people who don't have insurance here in Tennessee.
So I wonder, Pat, what do you think of that when we're talking about health care and Bill Lee?
Well, Bill Lee has been pretty much opposed to certainly expanding Medicaid as it's known under the Obamacare situation. He's talked about wanting to have some kind of thing that's Tennessee-centric and might be lasting for 40 or 50 years. It's unclear exactly what that's going to be and how quickly he'll push that. That's another thing to look for today, to see if he wants to talk about things going on in the healthcare area and if that's going to be among his immediate plans for his legislative agenda and other things he's going to try to do as governor. It doesn't appear like he's going to be moving to the legislature and have them reconsider the Governor Haslam's proposal and get the general TennCare program, the Medicaid program expanded in Tennessee. He pretty much on the campaign trail said that's not something he's interested in. He thought that was a failed program and was not going to work. And it'll be interesting to see the Democrats in Washington are pushing more for Medicaid for all, or Medicare for all, and whether that creates a different set of scenarios, not only in Washington, but a little bit about what Tennessee wants to do moving forward.
Okay.
I understand Kyle Harant spoke with the mayor or the governor-elect also about that. Let's listen to that.
It's been an alarming trend for people living in rural parts of Tennessee. Hospitals are closing. It's an issue that impacts them and one that Governor-elect Bill Lee hasn't overlooked.
We have such rapidly escalating healthcare costs, far exceeding the rate of inflation, that if we don't get a handle on those costs, that more and more people will not be able to afford it.
For the governor-elect, the problems are apparent.
We have one of the worst health outcomes in the country in our state. And the vast majority of cost, and what makes it so unaffordable and so rapidly increasing, the vast majority of that cost is associated with mostly preventable chronic disease that's attached to things like obesity and smoking.
Healthcare is at the top of Lee's list of issues Tennessee should face head-on. He doesn't believe that starts with expanding Medicaid, though. Instead, he believes there are different solutions to lower medical costs.
If we expand an existing problem, an existing system that's broken, then we're going to create for ourselves greater problems down the road.
And for the rural hospitals that have been closing across the state, the problem there is those hospitals are not profitable. He believes there are solutions there too.
What folks need now are facilities, and this is working in some places across the state where there is a transformation being made and where the model is changing, where you have a essential services provider, maybe a freestanding ER along with essential services, and then an improvement in transport to a regional center that provides much more specialty and much greater access to high quality specific needs. That's a model that's working in some communities, and we just need to expand it across Tennessee.
Lee also says incentives for rural residencies could bring much needed doctors to areas where there are few. Kyle Harant, News Channel 5.
Thanks, Kyle.
All right, if things are going as scheduled,
yes,
according to our itinerary, right now at 11:20 or so, the governor-elect, his wife and family are making their way over in the tunnel, the Mutlow tunnel they call it, into the staging area, and they're getting ready. And then in a few minutes, the Speaker of the Senate, which is Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally, he will preside over as president of the Joint Convention. He will go to the podium. Senator Jack Johnson, Representative Lamberth will rise from their seats, and then they go through a series of things kind of calling this into session.
Exactly.
The Joint Convention. So,
and we'll cut away for that, I'm
absolutely.
sure.
Once things get going and people are all settled and that starts, we will definitely go live in there. And Pat, I know this is a whole week of inaugural events, a big celebration last night, Boots on Broadway, downtown at Acme, and later today there are tours of the Tennessee State Capitol open to the public for a couple of hours.
Tennessee State Museum as well.
The new Tennessee State Museum, that's right. A chance to check that out from 1 to 4 over on Rosa Parks Boulevard. And the Tennessee State Library and Archives even has a new exhibit, which I want to go check out.
I do too.
Called Governors of Tennessee. And Pat, I don't know if you plan to go check it out, but I know you're a history buff. The information and materials that have been stored in archives on all of our governors, beginning in 1796 with who, Pat?
1796,
that would have been John Sevier. The first governor.
John Sevier. I knew he'd have the answer to that. But it really is a great time, especially for history buffs, political history buffs in Tennessee, right?
Yeah, and don't forget, Rory, on Sunday there's going to be an open house at the governor's mansion for people in Tennessee who've never gone out to see the governor's residence, particularly now that it has been renovated under Governor Bredesen. It is quite something to see, and people should go out there and be proud of being able to look at the executive residence and see what's out there. So if you've got some time to do that now, tomorrow may not be the greatest day to be out traveling given the weather and perhaps the road conditions, but if you have the opportunity to do that, I would say try to do that. And the other things you're talking about, particularly since we now have the brand new State Museum, would be a great opportunity to see that. And pretty soon the Library and Archives is going to have a new opportunity to have a facility down in the Capitol Ball area and that'll be great too. But I want to see that exhibit. I want to also see what they've been able to uncover from Tennessee's 100th anniversary of their involvement in the First World War. And I know they were asking for a lot of things from out of the public for what they may have to share. And it's always amazing what people have in their attics and other places, cubby holes that they bring out and say, well, this is what I got from my great grandfather. And it's a real heirloom and a find.
Now, Pat, will the governor, do you think, live in the executive residence, the governor's residence? Because I know Phil Bredesen and his wife did not.
I believe I've heard he will be doing that. I'm not absolutely sure about that. I don't think he's going to get rid of his residence in Franklin, but I believe he and his wife will be moving into the executive mansion. And whether they've done that as yet, I don't know. I don't know the exact situation with Governor Haslam. I know he is leaving for an overseas trip for some vacation and also to contemplate whether he might want to run for Senator Alexander's office now that the senator is retiring in 2020. So I'm pretty sure they have probably already gotten a good bit of things out of the executive residence and will be moving on from there. But exactly when the new governor or has the new governor moved in, I'm not sure yet. I'm pretty sure Governor Haslam is probably out simply because this is the day he goes out of office within a matter of minutes now.
Governor Lee and his wife Maria will be living there, I guess, and they're going to be hosting that open house tomorrow at the Tennessee residence from 11:30 to 3:30. So another great opportunity for citizens to go and see the residence.
It's part of your home too, basically.
And speaking of Bill Haslam, you know, I had that sit down with him, and I think he was on the go right up until today. I think he's finally going to be able to exhale and go on this long vacation with his wife and family, his wife Chrissy, and I think they're all looking forward to it. 8 years as governor, and almost every minute is scheduled for you. We got some time to sit down and talk with him, and he had a chance to kind of reflect on his 8 years in office. Here's a little segment of that.
I, Bill Haslam,
do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
8 years ago, Knoxville Mayor Bill Haslam was sworn in as governor after easily defeating Democrat Mike McWhorter in the general election. Similar to his predecessor, Phil Bredesen, Haslam was seen as a moderate businessman who would focus on education and economic growth.
The path we will travel will not be smooth, and there will be a few bumps along the way.
Tell me about some of those bumps that you've faced and how you navigated them.
In government, there's 1,000 points of no. You know, so you got to get a legislature to go along with you. You have constitutional officers that have certain statutory authority, and you have to learn to operate in that environment. And you're doing it all in a very public world. And we haven't always gotten it right, but we've tried to say, well, you know, what's the right thing to do? Whether it's taking care of folks with intellectual disabilities, or addressing the opiate crisis, or figuring out how we're going to pay for roads in Nashville.
The political road for Haslam was paved with a Republican supermajority in the legislature, something he agrees helped drive his agenda.
I'm the first Republican governor in history to have a Republican legislature. that's primarily meant we passed a lot of big things, from tenure reform and tort reform to $570 million of tax cuts to new ways to address workers' comp issues. There's a lot of big legislation that we were able to pass that you could have never done with a split legislature.
I hereby declare the House of Representatives now in session.
Despite that advantage, Haslam didn't always find agreeable Republicans in the House and Senate, especially when it came to expanding Medicaid in Tennessee.
I think, to be honest with you, the reason is it's still so identified with Obamacare, which, is still very unpopular in Tennessee.
During Haslam's tenure, Tennessee's schools and students made real strides with improved standards and test scores. Still, he admits, continued problems with the TN-ready standardized testing shouldn't have happened.
To me, it's been a major disappointment, and I know for all of our teachers and parents and students out there, it's been a major frustration.
But the governor says that frustration has led to improvements in how the state evaluates potential vendors. Indeed, the outsourcing of government services to private contractors is something Haslam embraced, despite criticism and claims of cronyism.
I still think our job in government is to provide the very best service for the very lowest cost. That's what we should fundamentally do. And if there's things that other people can do better than we can, then we should do that.
As Bill Haslam begins to reflect on his 8 years in office, his biggest regret may come as a surprise.
I underestimated the job of governor. I didn't know what a big deal it was. And I don't mean the sense of how people treat you and all that, but in the sense of how much you can do.
As for his accomplishments and what he's most proud of, Haslam is a bit more politically philosophical.
I really think we have had an administration that's focused on getting to the right answer and not to a political answer or our own answer.
The wheels of tradition and change are now beginning to officially turn.
Yeah, we want to take you inside now for the beginning of the inaugural ceremony of our 50th governor, Bill Lee. Right
All
now,
those
the
opposed,
Randy
no.
McNally, Lieutenant Governor, is calling together a joint convention of the 111th General Assembly, and then after that we will have the invocation, the pledge, the anthem, and the inaugural address.
And we'll be back.
House Joint Resolution 10 by Representative Lambert, a resolution to call a joint convention of the House of Representatives and the Senate for inauguration of Bill Lee as governor of the state of Tennessee, to provide for the adjournment of the 111th General Assembly organizational session and to provide for the convening and recess of the 2019 regular session of the 111th General Assembly. Whereas Tennessee Code annotated Section 8.1.101 provides, quote, the governor shall take the oath of office on the first Saturday following the 14th day of January next following the governor's election, after the commencement of the organizational session of the General Assembly as established by the Constitution of Tennessee, Article 2, Section 8. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the 111th General Assembly of the State of Tennessee, the Senate concurring, that the House of Representatives and the Senate shall meet in joint convention on Legislative Plaza on Saturday, January 19, 2019, at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time for the purpose of inaugurating Honorable inaugurated as governor of Tennessee. Be further resolved that the 111th General Assembly, the organizational session, stand in adjournment at the close of business on Saturday, January 19th, 2019.
Thank you. I hereby appoint the following committee to escort the Honorable Bill Haslam, Governor of the State of Tennessee, and First Lady Chrissy Haslam to the platform. Senator Gilmore, Senator Gresham, Senator Jackson, Senator Kelsey, Senator Nicely, Senator Stevens.
Representatives DeBerry, Hofford, Curtis Johnson, William Lamberth, Marsh, and Cameron Sexton.
The chairman of the committee will be Representative Curtis Johnson. Mr.
President and members of the Joint the Governor of the great state of Tennessee, Bill Haslam, and First Lady Chrissy Haslam.
Appoint the following committee to escort the Honorable Bill Lee, Governor-elect of the state of Tennessee, and Mrs. Maria Lee, First Lady designated, to the platform. Senator Ackberry, Senator Hale, Senator Johnson, Senator Watson, Senator Yeager, Senator Yarborough.
Representatives Holt, Lynn, Reedy, Sherrill, Window, Zachary.
The chairman of the committee shall be Senator Hale. Chairman Hale, you're recognized.
Mr. President, members of the Joint Convention, it is my honor to present to you the Honorable Bill Lee, Governor-elect of the state of Tennessee, and Mrs. Maria Lee.
Will the Joint Convention please rise for the presentation of the colors by the Tennessee National Guard and remain standing while the invocation is led by Steve Berger, pastor of Grace Chapel. After the prayer, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and the singing of the national anthem. We will now be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag by Adam DeQuan Smith. Mr. Smith, you're recognized.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. To honor America with the singing of the national anthem, please welcome Daley and Vincent.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous street, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Star-Spangled Banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the of the
We'll now have the invocation led by Steve Berger, pastor of Grace Chapel. Please remain standing. Pastor Berger.
Let's pray together on this beautiful, awesome, historic day. Heavenly Father, we are thankful for your faithful presence among us. We're thankful for this incredible nation and the great state of Tennessee that we love and are privileged to live in. We're grateful that in the founding and forming of these United States that you have been recognized and revered. From the Mayflower Compact of 1620 to the Declaration of Independence of 1776 to the Constitution and Bill of Rights of 1791 to the Tennessee State Constitution of 1870, you have been justly acknowledged and honored. Our framers credited you with being our creator and the giver of the unalienable rights and blessings that we enjoy. President Lincoln rightly declared that we have been the recipients of your choicest blessings. It would benefit us to confess, however, that we have not always responded to your blessing appropriately. We have sinned against you and one another. For our sins, we genuinely beseech your forgiveness to cleanse us and your power to grace us so that we don't repeat our shortcomings. Now, we pray for your servant, Governor-elect Bill Lee, and First Lady-designate Maria Lee. Almighty God, strengthen and inspire their existing commitment and devotion to you. Lord, bless and protect their marriage and their family. Father, anoint Bill with the knowledge of what's right, the wisdom to execute it, and the courage to complete it, regardless of the cost. May your word, will, and ways direct them as they navigate the often turbulent and unrelenting waters of political life. Be their encouragement in tough times, their humility in victorious times, and their focus at all times. Father, we know your word says that when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. We pray, therefore, for a generous outpouring of righteousness and rejoicing from Johnson City to Memphis and all points in between for all Tennesseans. Now, respecting people of all faiths or no faith, I humbly submit this prayer to you, Father, in the name of Jesus, who taught us to pray together, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Berger. It's my honor to present to you a dedicated public servant who always puts the state of Tennessee above himself, a man who makes sure that prosperity is shared throughout the state and across all grand divisions, a man who will leave state government better than he found it. Fellow Tennesseans, the Honorable Bill Haslam, Governor of the state of Tennessee.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please have a seat. Thanks. Let me start by thanking someone who has served this state amazingly well for the last 8 years in more ways than I can tell you. Please help me thank the wonderful Chrissy Haslam. So in about 2 hours, Chrissy and I are going to be getting in a car and heading east on I-40. Two things to know about that. Number one, I haven't driven in 8 years. So if you happen to be going to Knoxville or Johnson City or Bristol somewhere, you might want to get a head start on us. The second thing to know is this, and I will try not to choke up when I say this, but there won't be two more grateful people anywhere than the two in that car. For the last 8 years, we have loved every bit of doing this, and I can't thank you enough. Every day, I have walked up to the steps to the Capitol and thought, as David says to God in 2 Samuel, "Who am I, Lord, and who is my house that you have brought me here?" I felt that every day that I got to do this job, and I always will. So to the people of Tennessee, know I am forever grateful. This is a great state. For every one person that takes a cheap shot on social media, there's 100 that send encouraging, thoughtful notes. For every one that seems to live a life that's just about themselves, there's 100 that rush to help when there's a tornado or a wildfire, military is deployed, or school children are in a bus wreck, or whatever it is. There is 100 that respond for every one that disappoints you. Three things I'd like to say, and then I'm going to sit down and we are going to get about inaugurating a great man. The first is this. One of my favorite quotes is by Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes. He said, "This is the mighty joy in life, to be a force for good, instead of a selfish, feverish clod of ailments, complaining that the world won't make you happy." You know, there's a lot of discussion going on about all the change in Tennessee. We have, a new governor, a lot of new legislators, and new leadership. And the question always becomes, well, who's got the power now? What's going to happen? Who's going to hold the reins of power? I hope the question becomes, who's going to seek good the most? And who is going to serve the best? Because this is a great state that we are honored to live in and that we are called to serve. The second point I would make is this: Tennessee will lead. If we're a state that can become the fastest improving state in the country for K-12 education results, the first state to figure out how to give everybody 2 years free of community college or technical school, a state that can have a GDP that rises faster than any of our neighbors, and a state that can figure out how to have low taxes and low debt and still provide for our most vulnerable citizens, then we can lead. Governor Lee, you're going to find something. All these great folks that you've hired are going to be incredibly loyal to you. When you're right, they're going to be really loyal to you, and when you're not right, they're still going to be loyal to you. During the campaign, when somebody would say something about, Tennessee can do this better, we can do this, our folks would get all offended, like, I can't believe it. Let them come try it, and we'll see how they do. But you know what? They're right. And so when Governor Lee talked through the campaign about Tennessee can better, he was dead right, and we can be. Governor Bredesen told me, hopefully you remember this, about his last day in office. I said, any last piece of advice? He said, it's this: we don't expect enough of ourselves. We can believe in better. And that has been Governor Lee's message, and it is so true. So work with Governor Lee to believe in better and be the kind of state that Tennessee really can be. And that leaves me to the last thing I would like to say about who you have elected governor. Way to go, Tennessee. Way to go. Mark my words, Bill Lee will be a great governor. 8 years, not 4 years, 8 years from now. We will be paying tribute to the great job. You go, well, how do you know that? He hasn't done the job. Well, I know that because I've seen him. I've seen him hire a great team of people. And to all of you who are joining the Lee administration, you're coming to work with a great group of people. I've already seen him recruit business to Tennessee. I've already seen him begin to wrestle and understand the budget. But even more than that, I've seen the courage of his convictions, whether it be through a campaign or just living life. Bill has faced some of the hardest things that life can handle. And he came up not feeling sorry for himself and having a pity party, but saying, how can I serve? So, Bill, Godspeed, my brother. Chrissy and I woke up and did what thousands of other Tennesseans did this morning before we came here. We woke up and prayed for you and Maria. We will be praying for you and cheering for you. We're grateful to have, you don't get to pick your successor in this job, but I can't think of anybody else that we are more excited to turn over the keys to this wonderful state that we love and call home. Thank you so much for allowing us to do this.
Right now, the band is filling a little bit, and the reason for that is that the governor can't get inaugurated until noon. Lane Arnold, the governor's press secretary, is with us here. Is that the reason for the delay?
That is the reason. It's a great excuse to enjoy all the pageantry, though, this afternoon as we wait a few more minutes for the governor to take the stage and be sworn in.
Bill Haslam's comments, he got emotional a couple of times, and it's very obvious that he really likes Bill Lee.
Yes, they have a fantastic relationship. The governor has made a point to really, really mentor him as we've gone through this transition process.
A couple of other things I noticed there. You don't even think about it, but the governor hasn't driven in 8 years, and he said he's getting ready to head down I-40, and so that could be interesting.
Absolutely. You know, you got to love Governor Haslam's sense of humor. And speaking of Knoxville, I hear Rocky Top gearing up for the crowd, and a lot of enthusiasm in this room right now.
I wonder if they're going to play a song for Vanderbilt after this.
You know, if they were fair, they would do that, right?
It's a great sight to see all the former governors up there. I saw Don Sundquist and Winfield Dunn and Phil Bredesen and all the old former governors lined up there.
Yes, so we have all of the living former governors in attendance today. It was particularly special to have Governor Winfield Dunn here. He's approaching 96. And so we are thrilled that he could make it out as well. And, you know, it's an honor that they would all join us on stage today. There's so much wisdom there. They've all been incredibly supportive of the governor-elect through this process.
Winfield Dunn's an amazing guy. I met him probably 35 years ago, and you don't see him for 10 years, and he calls you by name. It just amazes me.
Absolutely.
I don't know how he does that.
He and the governor-elect really have that in common, both just an incredible interpersonal ability to connect with people, and just remember personal points and say hello again even 10 years later.
Just got a couple of more minutes now. The band is entertaining the crowd. We're waiting for the oath of office, which of course can't take place until 12 noon according to Tennessee state law.
Yes.
What did you think about the comments from Bill Haslam? Shorter than we expected, obviously.
Absolutely. So we've been with him a lot in the last few weeks, and it really captured the sentiment of his last few days in office. The governor-elect had the opportunity to travel to Detroit with him this past weekend on a job announcement for Tennessee, and he also got to announce the addition of 1,000 jobs with a VW expansion in Chattanooga. And during that time together, the governor was very sentimental. And you could tell it was really time for the changing of the guard, and just was in good spirits, so refreshed. I think he and the First Lady are ready for their next chapter, and we've so appreciated their help during this process.
And speaking of the next chapter, it's been announced that he's going to wait a little while and take a little time off before he decides what his next step is going to be.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think that rest is well deserved. Absolutely.
Back to the stage we go.
Mr. President, Glenn Cassida.
Thank you. The oath of office will now be administered by the governor-elect of the state of Tennessee, the Honorable Bill Lee, by the Chief Justice of the Tennessee Supreme Court, the Honorable Jeff Bivens.
Ready? Governor-elect Lee, are you ready to take the oath of office?
Yes, I am.
Please place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I, William Byron Lee.
I, William Byron Lee.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
That as governor of the state of Tennessee.
That as governor of the state of Tennessee.
I will support the Constitution of the state of Tennessee.
I will support the Constitution of the state of Tennessee.
And the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the United States.
And that I will perform with fidelity.
And I will perform with fidelity.
And faithfully execute.
And faithfully execute.
The duties of the office of governor.
The duties of the office of governor.
To which I have been elected.
To which I have been elected.
And which I am about to assume.
And which I am about to assume.
To the best of my skill and ability.
To the best of my skill and ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lord. In 1796, a man and his young family made their homestead on the banks of the Cumberland River just up the way from here. That was the year that the great state of Tennessee was founded. And 223 years later, and 50 governors later, we stand here on the banks of the Cumberland River, celebrating our history and anticipating our future. Thank you for that welcome and introduction. Thank you so very much. I'm honored to be here with Governor McNally, Speaker Cassada. Thank you. Welcome. Members of the General Assembly, I genuinely look forward to working with you in the days ahead. Former governors, justices of the Supreme Court, members of our congressional delegation, and all fellow Tennesseans who have joined here in the War Memorial Auditorium, where it's warm and dry, and all across the state. Thank you for sharing in this really special moment. I want to make a couple of acknowledgments. I would not be here today if it weren't for God's gift to me, my wife, Maria. Throughout the past 2 years of campaigning, Maria's been constantly by my side. She's been steadfastly committed, steadfastly loved me, and in the process, she has steadfastly fallen in love with the people of Tennessee and is committed to them as well. She will make a remarkable First Lady. Thank you, Maria. I also want to thank my family, who occupy a large section of this, and I want to thank my mother for being here. Ann Lee, who for 4 generations has been the foundation of the Lee family. My children and their spouses and their families, Jessica and Jacob and Caleb and Sarah Kate. You all have loved me well for many, many years. We have loved each other well through many, many things. But in the last couple of years, you've made great sacrifices. And I'm grateful for that. And your dad loves you even more than ever. I'd also like to take my own opportunity to thank Governor Bill Haslam and his wife Chrissy for their tireless service to this state for the past 8 years. Standing here in our state's capital, we see reminders of your administration's success everywhere. Growth and opportunity can be seen on every corner. From education to economic development, you've laid a foundation, a remarkable foundation that we get to build upon. We're the envy of many states, and it's in large part due to your remarkable leadership. And we, all of us in Tennessee, thank you, and Chrissy, and thank you for being our friend. That man that I spoke of that settled his family on the banks of the Cumberland the year that this great state was formed, that man's name was Charles Braxton Lee. And he was my 7th great-grandfather. And we stand here today, beneficiaries not of great governments of the past, but of the lives of the great men and women who have come before us. Men and women who forged difficult lives on the frontier, who formed small towns and eventually larger cities, people who cleared the land and planted crops and built businesses and worked in factories and created industry and created a state, like it says on our seal, a state of commerce and agriculture, a state that now stands as one of the most prosperous in the nation. And it didn't just simply happen. It wasn't inevitable. It happened because of men and women who came before us. Men and women who educated our children in one-room schoolhouses and then built an education system. Men and women who cared for our sick in the frontier and then built clinics and then hospitals and then a health system. Men and women who protected us and built a system of justice and law. Circuit riders who traveled this state and built a community of faith. It happened because of men and women who sacrificed in wars from the Revolutionary War to today. And it happened because of men and women who struggled to overcome injustices and inequalities in our society, from slavery to suffrage to civil rights. And most of all, it happened because of the favor of God Himself. He was strong, and He has blessed us indeed. And as governor of Tennessee, I will daily ask for His wisdom and for His guidance and for His direction. And we will need that wisdom, for in spite of the great favor that He's shown us, in spite of the great blessings that we have great challenges in front of us. Tennesseans, we stand in one of the great states in all of America, but our greatness has never come from what one individual has done. Our greatness has always come from the collective lives and service and commitment and sacrifice of those who have come before us, because of what we have always in service. Last year, Maria and I drove back and forth all across this state to every corner of Tennessee. And we found out something. No matter whether you live in the hills of East Tennessee or the fields of West Tennessee, or whether you live in a small town or downtown, people want the same thing: a good job, a good school for their kid, and a safe neighborhood. And it's true. We have good jobs and great prosperity here. We have record low unemployment. We have record low taxes. Companies are moving here. Businesses are building here. We have great prosperity, as I said, on every corner. And yet we have 15 counties in poverty, all rural, all Tennesseans. We have some of the most distressed zip codes in America right in the heart of our greatest cities. So when we consider our state, we see how fortunate we are, and yet we also see how much
we have to do. Not only do Tennesseans want a good job, but Tennesseans want good schools for their kids, and we have made tremendous progress in this state in education, in part due to great education governors that have gone before me. In fact, Tennessee has the highest rate of improvement in educational outcomes of any state in the country. And yet, we're still in the bottom half of states. Now, I believe that education is much more than a test score. It's about preparation of a child for success in life. And a resurgence of vocational and technical and agricultural education and the inclusion of civics and character education combined with reforms will take Tennessee to the top tier of states. And Tennesseans do want good jobs, and they do want good schools, but they also want safe neighborhoods. And while most of our communities and our neighborhoods are safe, our violent crime rate is rising in every major city in our state. We can be tough on crime and smart on crime at the same time. And for violent criminals and for traffickers, justice should be swift and it should be certain. But here's the reality. 95% of people sitting in a jail or prison cell in the state of Tennessee are coming out into our communities. And right now, half of them will recommit a crime and go back in the first 3 years. We need to help nonviolent offenders re-enter society, not re-enter prison. I believe that we can do it. I believe that we can create safer neighborhoods, good jobs, better schools all across our state. These are just a few examples of the challenges that we face. And there are many other challenges that we can't ignore either. An opioid epidemic that's ravaging Tennessee. Too few Tennesseans have access to health care that they can afford. Our rural communities are struggling. Yes, these are the challenges of our day, and history will judge us based on how we meet them. And as honored as I am to be your next governor, no governor will solve the problems. In fact, no government will solve the greatest problems that we face. Government's not the answer to our challenges. Government's role is to protect our right, our liberty, and our freedom. And I believe in a limited government that provides unlimited opportunities for we, the people, to address the greatest challenges of our day. The truth is that most of the things that have created the greatness of Tennessee don't have much to do with government at all. Our strength has always come from our people, like those first Tennesseans who came here with hope and who worked together to create this great state. You know, we're famous for our 3 grand divisions of East and West and Middle, and as evidenced by the 3 stars on our flag. But it's important to remember, however, that that circle around those stars represents the unity of our state. And I believe that Tennesseans have much more that unites us than divides us. And I believe that one way that we do unite is by following the commandment to love your neighbor as yourself. In fact, I believe it's a key to American greatness. Our greatness has never come from government compulsion or power. It's always come from our love for each other and our commitment to our fellow citizens and to our neighbors. If we remember that commandment and walk in that spirit, our greatest days will always lie before us. Thank you. So much has changed over the past 223 years, but some things haven't changed at all. Once again, we stand here, Tennesseans,
on the banks of the Cumberland with great challenges and great opportunities, as much in need of the wisdom and favor of God as ever, and with a continued deep commitment to each other. These last few months, I've thought an awful lot about Braxton Lee and about those first Tennesseans. I wonder what they told each other when they had to deal with their struggles. And I think a lot about who they were. They were strong and courageous, and they were faithful, and they were committed, and they were certain. They were Tennesseans. And I've also thought a lot about our descendants, 7 generations from now. What will they say of us? Were we strong and courageous? Were we faithful? Were we committed? Were we certain? Did we come together to meet the challenges that we face with courage and optimism and a belief in each other? If we meet the challenges of this moment, they too will say of us, they were Tennesseans. Thank you for this great honor. May God bless each one of you, and may God bless the great state of Tennessee. Thank you.
Honorable Bill Lee is duly, legally, and constitutionally inaugurated as the governor of the state of Tennessee for 4 years. Will the members of Governor Lee's cabinet please rise to receive the oath of office? Cabinet members, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, state your name, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the state of Tennessee and the Constitution of the United States. And I will perform with fidelity and faithfully execute the duties of the office to which I have been appointed and which I am about to assume. So help me God. Please rise for the benediction. We will pronounce the founder and president, the Caleb Company, Dr. Don Finto.
What better way to end this really outstanding occasion than to use the personally worded benediction blessing of the Almighty Himself. It appears in Numbers, the 6th chapter in our Bible. And it's the words that God gave Moses to give to Aaron, with which to bless all future generations of Israel. But since those of us who are followers of Jesus all see ourselves as grafted into the family of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and into the family of Israel, we don't replace them, but we share in those blessings. And the Lord said to Moses, when Aaron prays this, or future generations, I will put my name upon them. And so as I speak this, first of all in English, we know this well, most of us. God has said He would put His name on you. Let Him inscribe on your heart, on your brow. Let Him inscribe Himself on you. And here's the benediction. The Lord bless you. He's the only one who can. We can't bless ourselves. No person really can bless, not with the strength of the Almighty. And keep you. We need kept. The Lord make his face shine upon you. You have to get close enough to him that he radiates in and through you and be gracious to you. Pour out his grace, his power, his energy on you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you shalom, which is a deeper peace than our word peace. It's the saturation peace, not just the absence of war, but our whole being saturated with peace. And so may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. And now, in the language, as nearly as we know, that in which it was given, Yevarechacha Adonai vayishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav alecha v'chonecha, Yisa Adonai panav alecha v'yasem lecha shalom. And if you'd allow me to even to chant it, as it so often is done in synagogues around the world, there seems to be some kind of authority weighted in this benediction. Yevarechacha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav alecha v'chonecha, Yisa Adonai panav alecha v'yasem lecha shalom. And I bring that to you, Lord, in the powerful name of Jesus. Amen.
It's official. Bill Lee is the 50th Tennessee governor.
That's right. Dr. Don Finto there with the benediction. And what happens now is Speaker of the House Glenn Cassida will basically wrap the inaugural, and people will be coming out of War Memorial, some of them already now. An event that lasted about an hour.
About an hour, yeah, it was.
It moved right along. There was one slight delay, though, that we noticed, Vicki, when we were inside, because they want to swear in the new governor right at high noon.
Right at high noon.
And some of the speeches, they had a little extra time.
A little short, so what they did was play Rocky Top about 3 times.
Yeah. The military band inside played a couple of songs, and then they played Rocky Top and filled some time until they got to the top of the hour. But the audience really enjoyed it.
They did. A lot of whoos going on, so that was a fun time. Also, the cannons were shot off during his speech, and we knew they were going to happen, but he stopped and let them go, and then he continued.
You can hear them from the inside, and as a matter of fact, I think people on social media all around town are saying, what were those loud blasts? It was just the cannons going off to honor our new governor, the 50th governor of Tennessee, and that is Bill Lee. So the inaugural events will continue, as we mentioned today. Tours of the Tennessee State Capitol from 1 to 3 this afternoon. Right. The Tennessee State Museum will be open from 1 to 5 for 4 hours, and tonight there are a couple of inaugural dinners and inaugural balls at Music City Center.
The new governor spoke for about 15 minutes, and he touched on several areas, obviously, one including that poverty is rampant in parts of Tennessee, not all of Tennessee, obviously, and also that great progress has been made in our education, but that the state can do better.
And an emotional Bill Haslam with a farewell address, honoring his wife Chrissy, honoring former Governor Phil Bredesen, and also welcoming and wishing the best of luck to the new governor.
And warning people on I-40 to be careful because he hasn't driven in 8 years, and he's going to be driving to Knoxville tonight.
All right, so that's going to do it for our coverage of the 50th inaugural event here live from Legislative Plaza and War Memorial Auditorium on News Channel 5 and newschannel5.com. We hope you enjoyed watching a little bit of political history today.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Vicki Yates.